The idea of saying what else to whatever it is that you're confronted with, in my view, is the single most important thing that you could do to have success in business, to have success in social relationships, to have success in your health. But even weirder, and this is kind of weird, I believe that your spiritual health is actually reflected by your relationship to opportunity cost. So what I mean by this, I'm going to explain it within a physical term, like very practical day to day, but then I want to sort of expand on this and put it into the idea of your own spiritual growth, the growth of your core essence. So for a business owner, the major thing that you've got to be saying to yourself is what else? Simple example, let's say that you're starting a business, and let's say that you like to cook your own food, or let's say that you like to do your own dishes. At a certain point, once you're making more than a couple dollars per hour, and you're making enough that you can hire somebody to do that, the next step that you have to make is that you have to hire the person, and if you can make $1 more, then go make $1 more, et cetera, et cetera. And you do this all throughout the course of your business until you're smashing it, okay? Until you've got a ton of different people underneath you, you built systems, and your mere existence represents the existence of thousands of people, and as a result of that, you wind up getting very, very rich, okay? So this is how it works in business. In food, it's not just that you're skipping a healthy meal and eating a bad meal, and oh, now you're eating the bad food, is harming you. It's actually the good meal that you didn't eat, and that good meal that you didn't eat, you've actually been deprived of that. So you've not only harmed yourself with bad food, but you didn't eat good food. Likewise in social relationships, you can have it where maybe you're dating the wrong person, or maybe you're partnered up with the wrong person or have the wrong friends, and that time that you're burning down is actually stopping you from being with somebody better. And I'm not looking always for the bigger, better deal, but I'm also willing to admit that you can waste a lot of time trying to sort out relationships that are never gonna be fixed, they're never gonna be healthy, and so you've got to admit that to yourself. Now, what I wanna do is also frame this to you within the concept of spiritual growth. And what does that mean? Well, whatever it is that you resonate with, whether you resonate at a high level, or some people would say vibrate at a high level, or a low level, you might resonate or vibrate at a low level, what this is gonna do is this is gonna determine your discernment and your perception of what it is that you're able to see, okay? So your life right in front of you is going to mirror a heaven on earth, or it's going to mirror a hell on earth. And what's gonna be happening is that if you're in a low vibe state, your brain is not able to see all the different opportunities. It's blocking them out, and it's only seeing problems. It's only seeing low gratitude. It's only seeing complaint, and it's fault finding, and so on and so forth. Now, to some extent, you want to find fault, you want to audit risk, you want to realize when something is toxic. That's a good thing. But what'll tend to happen is that if you're in a low vibe state, what'll happen is that that's all that you can see, and you're missing all the upside. Or you could be partnered up with somebody who's amazing, you're making money, you're doing cool things, but you can't see it, and so on and so forth. So whatever level that you're resonating at, that is something that's inside you, and you could call that your emotional state set point. You could call that, the mood that you're addicted to. You could call that the synaptic superhighways that are in your brain that you form through repetitive thoughts, whether they're negative or positive. But you could also say that at some level, there is an expansive and positive core essence in you versus a contracted and very negative core essence that's in you. So at a high vibration, like they call it, it's kind of this weird jargon. I get that, by the way. But at a kind of high vibe essence, at an expanded essence, what winds up happening is that when you see beautiful opportunities, you'll just tend to see it and resonate with it and spot it amongst the muck. You'll just sort of vibe it out. You'll just see it, feel it, resonate with it. So if people start laughing, you'll naturally see that as an opportunity to start laughing. Boom, you just start laughing. When people are sad, you might address it with them and try to help them to get through it, but you're not gonna sit there ruminating in it and kind of, rolling around in it like people at a low vibe state. So you've got to understand at a core level that this is both a pragmatic thing in your business, in your social relationships, in your food that you're eating, but it's also something that's spiritual, and it's something that shows your own degree of spiritual evolution. So, like I've talked about in videos leading up to this, you've got to be auditing what is the opportunity cost that you're giving up. And what I'd say to you is this: have you really stopped and audited what it is costing you to engage with every little stupid thing that's put in front of your face? So in other words, it's the latest album, the latest book, the latest restaurant, the latest food thing, the latest trend, the latest social media post. And there's something that is actually at a low vibe state when you're just looking at your feed, right? You're just looking through your feed. Now, feed can be good because it's curated to you. It's not all bad, also there to brainwash you, but pros and cons of that. But understand that there should be something in you that says, I don't really resonate with things that don't stand the test of time in many cases. I don't really resonate with foods that are not uplifting me and nourishing me. I don't resonate with conversations that are not allowing me to expand. I don't resonate with whatever's just not leading me forward and helping me to expand and add more value. And so what you've got to do at your core is you've got to do a true audit of the opportunity cost of what you're missing. And when you've really, really understood this at a high level, your mind will be blown. You will realize just how much your life is passing you by. And if you were to look at basically all the different people in your life, be honest, rate them from 1 to 10 on how much they're allowing their lives to pass them by. And then I'd say to you, how much are you letting your life pass you by? So the first thing that I think you need to do is you need to have some kind of a list of what it is that you want out of life. You've got to make some kind of a list. And you've got to have a clear-cut vision of what it is that you're trying to build. Now, that list could include things like places that you want to go visit. Like for me, coming to the Bonneville Salt Flats here and seeing it on a day where there's a mirror, which is super rare. You've got to catch it right after it's rain when the sun is out. Very rare. That is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Now I get to do it. I get to have this experience. That's a beautiful experience for me. But it could also be things like maybe working super duper hard and pushing through internal barriers and showing yourself what you're capable of. That could be another example. It could be something like building skills. Like, you know, for myself, I like to do videos in front of the camera. I like to do videos in nature, as you're aware, videos in cities. But I also like to do amazing seminars. And so for me, building the skill set as a seminar speaker and being in front of a crowd, hundreds of people cheering for me, egging me on to do better and better and better, and connecting to the message, that for me is a thrill unlike anything else. So anytime that I'm wasting, I'm not building that skill. Likewise, imagine the kind of partner or significant other that you want to have, or significant others in the course of your dating life, or the kind of friendships that you want to have, or maybe it could be the kind of media content that you want to look at, classical media content, or the best of the best new stuff. Or it could be things like books that you want to read, and so on and so forth. Certain books that you read are very, very powerful experiences. Do you want to spend time with your family in front of a fireplace, maybe out at some, you know, maybe some cool cottage that you rented? Do you want to be at Burning Man? Right, I'm not a burner myself, but you know, things like that. And so once you start to audit this at an incredibly, incredibly high level, then what you've got to do is you've got to backwards engineer and go back and see if you're actually, you know, engaging in habits that's leading you to that point. You've got to be honest with yourself, and frankly, it can be very, very painful, okay? It can be very, very painful to see this. But what I would say is, for the vast majority of people, their lives are going to be very, very empty. It's just the truth. Their lives are going to be, the best way I could describe it is large companies are going to come in and feed you a false reality so that you live like an entire lifetime through the movies, through video games, through the TV set, through the internet, through the same exact commute to work every day, or things like that. And it really is like being stuck inside of a hamster cage, and it really is you being used as a battery in the matrix for the few people that actually are living life at a high level. So at your core, you've got to begin to decide, do you want to be that battery in the matrix, or do you want to create a life of your own design? And it's not just like, oh, go travel, go see the big mirror, go make a lot of money, go date someone you're attracted to, go read a great book. It's not just that, okay? That's the breadth of experience, but you've got to be coming back to the depth of experience that it is that you want to have. And at a core level, you've got to be honest with yourself. Yes, stepping up to do those things is tough, but in reality, there's many ways to do it where it's not tough by just chilling out and having a relaxed approach towards it. That's still focused. We'll get in that in future videos. But greater than any pain of it being tough, like, ooh, you didn't get to look at TikTok, the greater pain is the pain of regret. You think that the pain of winning is tough. Talk about the pain of regret. That's a line from Timothy S. Grover, who wrote the book Winning and Relentless, two classics. Talk about books that you should read. So the pain of regret is something that's going to catch up. And I can tell you, I'm sitting here at 42, and I feel that I've lived in the top 0.1% of lives of anybody that I've met, and I still have a pain of regret, because I still wish to this day that I would have had more coaches, despite that I spent, you know, I don't even want to tell you, on mentors and coaches. It's, you know, well into 6-7 figures. But knowing even that, like, why do I even wish that I had more coaches? Because frankly, as good as it is that I did, I feel that I held my standard at like me compared to the average, or me compared to the mainstream. And in reality, the mainstream has set the bar so incredibly low that us viewing that as the standard is ridiculous, it's ludicrous. That standard is so incredibly low that if you go beyond it, you think you've done a good job. No, you haven't. The average person is so miserable that if you're a little bit happy, you think that you've done a good job. You haven't. The average person's marriage or significant other, their relationship is so miserable, that you think that you've done better, if you've done, somewhat better than that. You haven't. The average person has traveled so little that, you've done 15 or 20 trips, you think you're doing well. You haven't. Here's why. It's not just me trying to challenge you. It's that the potential of life and what it is that you have as the gift of life is so great that, in my view, you've got to suck it up. So, you've got to soak it up, rather. You got to suck it up and go get it, and you've got to soak it up. So what I mean by this is, like, if you're joking with friends, laugh until you cry. If you're in nature, take in the nature, frankly, until you cry. You know what I mean? Take it until you're so present that you're looking at nature, and that subjective experience is so intense that it's beautiful. If you're with your significant other or somebody who you're dating and you're intimate, really enjoy that. Take that in. Take in the other person and the gift of them sharing their body with you. Take that in and love them and appreciate them deeply. If you've got great friends, have great conversations. If you're reading a great book, soak that in. Really get intense with it. If you're going to the spa, relax intensely. If you're on a day off from all this crazy stuff that I'm talking about, then relax intensely. Either be black or white, but don't be in a gray zone where maybe you're getting some work done but stressing, maybe you're relaxing, or you're getting some work done but relaxing a bit, or stressing but getting some work done. Make your decision. Have entire days off and really take it in. This is what it means to live life at a high level. And what will happen is, as you're doing this, rather than being like most people where you're kind of in this derp state, and then your version of fun is like to get numb from drugs and alcohol, or to take the path of least resistance, or to get little bursts of stimulation, rather than that being viewed as something that is the best that life has to offer, instead what's going to happen is you're going to build a base level state of being present to the moment. And from that state of being present to the moment, you'll be able to accomplish things that very few other people could. The average person is very, very miserable, and then what they do is they want to either get to the weekend and be numb, or they want to get some kind of stimulation, and that's how they get out of it. They're miserable. But what'll happen is, as you begin to value yourself more, what's going to start to happen is you're valuing yourself more and more and more, and then you'll start to want better for yourself. So you'll start to give more, but you're also going to receive more. You'll be giving, 100 million in value, and you'll be getting back 10 million in value. That's kind of a common one that you could probably get to after, say, 5 or 10 years, and maybe sooner if you get more mentors on it, right? But that's a common thing. You're giving out 100 mil, maybe you're getting back 10, things like that. And you can absolutely do that. You're at a bar or club, you're giving out good vibes to everybody, and you meet somebody special that night. You're a great friend to a lot of people, and then you've got a couple great friends back. It's usually like that. You give very freely, and then you'll also receive as well. But what you'll receive is so powerful, and here's why you're able to do it. Because when you're at that base level state, it's fun to make everybody at the bar or club have fun. It's fun to be very, very giving. It's fun to actually put yourself out there and make the vibe better. You actually gain enjoyment from it. So you're giving at a higher level. But then what happens is that the people that want to engage with you at a high level, they don't just take. They want to give back. And so you wind up getting incredible synergy. That's what happens at a base level when you become present. And now when you're putting in work, you feel good. You get a high from putting in work. So that's sort of the first step. That's very, very powerful. Then going from there, because you're doing this, what you're able to do is you're able to go through things that are a little bit tough and do them, and they get an incredible outcome. So what some people will call hustling, and it's hard because they don't get a stimulation bump or of dopamine, or because they're not in a derp state and numb, for you it's actually enjoyable because it's enhancing your feeling of being present to the moment. It's giving you that meditative, euphoric state. And once you have that shift of consciousness, now what happens, that becomes a foundation for you to go out and actually become very, very successful. Because most people can't pay attention long enough. They're in a derp state, they're feeling negative. What happens when you're feeling in a low derp state? Well, then you want to crap talk somebody. You want to look at a TikTok video. You want to eat something that poisons you. You want to drink or do drugs or things like that. You want to distract yourself, numb yourself, medicate yourself, take dopamine spikes, etc., etc. Feel better than somebody else by talking bad on them, getting a spike of dopamine from that. Complain about other people, triangulate to get a dopamine spike from that. But when you get to that center point where you truly feel that magical vibe, from there, because it's so meditative, now what you can do is you're not feeling better or worse based on what you're doing. As long as you're giving and acting in alignment with your purpose, you're totally happy. Well, now that you're happy in doing that, what's going to happen? You're going to go out and do amazing, amazing things. Okay, in the Bible, they would say that you're doing your works. Okay, I think I got that right, okay? You're doing amazing works. And you're doing amazing works through me. What does that mean? That's a bad paraphrase. I'm out here in the sun. But you know what I'm saying, right? That means that you're connected to the vine. The present energy is running through you. Now you can do amazing things at such a high level, and now you're going to have an amazing life because you're going to be able to have people reciprocating in return. You're getting paid more, meeting better people, meeting people on that level. And this kind of life is really, in my view, what life should be. But we've been poisoned by modern society that has dumbed us down, pimped us and turned us out in such a way that we're living in fear, and it's so common that the average person walking down the street doesn't know what planet they're on. But what I'm talking about here is this idea that I call endless motivation. And what do I mean by that? It's when you're tapped in and you've looked at the opportunity cost and you've really zoned in on what it is that you want out of life, and then your mind is naturally resonating at a higher level. And when it's doing this, it's just getting rid of all the crap. You're not resonating with it anymore, and you're taking the right action. It actually winds up becoming effortless because you resonate with those super positive things. Once you get to that point, life gets so incredibly good, and the people that can't resonate with that naturally fall by the wayside, and you start getting around better people, and the things that you can accomplish are limitless. So that's what I want to leave you with here now, is thinking about the idea of opportunity costs in business, in friendship, in romantic relationships, but also at a core spiritual level. And in many ways, the question of what else, or the idea of opportunity costs being, in many ways, the most powerful spiritual concept that you can have. So I hope this makes a lot of sense to you, and I hope it inspires you. Click the link below if you want to learn more. We're going to be going very, very deep on this topic of endless motivation and how when you get in the pocket, you can accomplish anything. And I want to teach this to you. I want to blow your mind. Click the link below if you want to learn more. And we'll be back with more soon about you, your journey, your expansion, in many ways, your second birth. I'm here for you through this process. Love you very much. Peace. So I want to go into the topic today of miswaiting bias, which means that you're giving way too much importance to things that are actually irrelevant to the quality of your life, and you're not giving nearly enough importance to things that will actually help your life. Now, a simple way to break into this is, have you ever noticed that if you're reading some trash, some garbage, say pop culture, let's say that it's the latest gossip about Kylie Jenner or something like that. I'm sure she's a nice person, but I'm just saying that's kind of a common thing. Well, it's very, very easy to read that. Part of that is because they'll make it short and easy to read. I get that. But part of it is that on an intuitive level, you know that it won't make your life any better. And if anything, it's going to bleed down the time that you have to make your life amazing. Now, conversely, if you were to read a book that could truly change your life at a high level, something that is completely, totally transformative, if you're to look at that, for some weird reason, you're going to notice this, you're just going to need to take a nap, even though you don't take naps. This used to happen to me. I remember the first time I ever picked up Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and it's a really big brick of a book. And I remember I'd start to read it, and I could tell this was going to change my life dramatically. I don't even agree with all of it, but I knew that it's going to change my life. Kind of book that, like, 23 to 27 is like the perfect age to read that. So anyway, I'm reading this thing, and I'd keep needing to take a nap because intuitively I could tell this is going to change my life so dramatically that I have a barrier towards looking at it. So the two different ways that you could think about this barrier, one of them is biological, and another way that you could look at it is spiritual. In other words, from a biology standpoint, let's say that you just start winning and winning and winning. Okay, great, you're winning, awesome. And so what winds up happening is that, evolutionarily where we came from, the winner would have all of these options, right? Because the way reproduction works is that the person who's winning and contributing the most, they get the most reproductive options to kind of create more of the people that can add value to the tribe. It's a simple idea in evolution, very easy. It's not that controversial. Some people make it that way. It's pretty simple stuff. So from that standpoint, we actually get afraid that we don't have the juice to back up all of those options, and someone's going to come and basically kill us. That's the fear that we have. Like, well, if I start winning like this, I'll get all this attention, and then if I get all this attention, I'm going to start having all these dates, and then if I have all these dates, I'm going to get killed, is basically what it is. So we get a block from that standpoint. But another standpoint, another area that we get a block would be from a spiritual standpoint. In other words, if you read the books that would actually change your life would begin to look like a heaven on earth. And because your life would begin to look like a heaven on earth, that scares you because you don't resonate at that level. You need your life to be hell. So that's this idea of miswaiting bias. So I want you to understand at a core level the commonalities between pop culture, drugs, and gossip. What are the commonalities? They give you a spike of dopamine that is unearned, and they waste your time. They make it so that in the short term, you have this little tiny microscopic deal with the devil, waste down your time, you don't benefit from it, and it shuts off your perception from the things that would actually help you. And you will actively see this. Now, you can look at different communicators on social media, content creators, et cetera, and you can actually see where they fit on the scale. You can actively look at it. How can you actively see it? You can see it by looking in their pupils. You can see it by looking at what energizes them. And in other words, what they resonate with and what they tend to focus on. You can see it by what they tend to laugh at, like what they find funny or of interest. And you can see it by the conversational topics that they go back to. So you should be able to look right in the pupil of anybody who you're talking to. And you should be able to say to yourself, how present is this person? Are they in a high vibe or low vibe state? You should see that right in the pupils. So you'll see in the pupils, basically what it is that, and very, very simple, is that you have kind of like on a spectrum from somebody who's very, very empathetic and elevated and spiritually connected, and then you have somebody who's more sociopathic, more demonic, and darker, okay? And you can kind of get a sense of where each person stands just by looking in their pupil. So the way that it's gonna look is that somebody who's on the far end of the high vibe spectrum is gonna have very, very steady gaze in their eye contact. And somebody who's very, very low and dark and sociopathic will also have a very, very steady gaze, and they'll also be congruent. Now, here's why that works. When the energy in your body is kind of running you, if the energy is pure positive, and you've kind of stabilized that kind of little kind of concoction in the mind, we'll call it that, then what happens is that you're in this very present vibe. So when you're looking at someone in the eye, that energy is very steady. You have a very, very steady state. And so the eyes will stay kind of like laser focused, because you're not hiding from people, and you're not having these emotional fluctuations quite as much, so you're not kind of like looking away, because when somebody's actually kind of enthusiastic for a second, but then looking away, you can see the energy in their bodies fluctuating. So when you're very, very rooted and grounded in that high vibe state, then what's going to wind up happening is you're going to have very, very steady eye contact. You're going to come across as aligned in your thoughts, words, and actions. You're really speaking your truth. Now, conversely, what will wind up happening is that if you go into the sociopath side, they also tend to be very congruent, very charismatic, very, very grounded. Some of the most grounded people that you'll ever see in your entire life are sociopaths, people in a very, very dark state. And they actually gain energy from harming others. They gain energy from speaking badly on others. They gain energy from the energy of death. And you'll be able to see by what they laugh at and where their conversations tend to go. So if their conversations tend to go to cutting others down, saying that they're better than everybody, needing to prove themselves because they don't just feel good in their own body, so they need to prove themselves a lot. If you see them getting to the point where it's very much about what they can take, not about what they can give, but maybe they're pretending to give as a way to kind of take more, right? Like kind of feigning concern. You can see that actively in where the person's coming from, and they're very, very grounded in the physical, which means because they're disconnected from a present happy state, then what winds up happening is they wind up hating anything that is about being present, that is about love for the process. They hate things like true friendship, things like true love, any of those things. Art, true art, they don't like that stuff. Why? They just don't resonate with it, okay? They resonate with what's in the physical and the energy of death. They've actually sold themselves out to, basically what they've done is that rather than building themselves up to actually being stable in a high vibe state, they've sold themselves out. And what they're doing is they're now in a very low vibe state, but they're gaining energy from that low vibe state, and they're gaining congruence to their thoughts, words, and actions, and they're gaining energy from taking. So now they're taking more, cutting others down to feel better about themselves, and they look very, very congruent and very, very believable, but that's the people that are naive and have no clue what they're looking at. And their goal is actually to be crabs in a bucket and bring people down to where they're at. If they see somebody in a high vibe state, there's an immediate hatred, and it's like a compulsive hatred to cause a problem there. Now, somebody in a high vibe state, what you're going to see is when they see the success of others, they almost can be brought to tears. They're so happy. They resonate with the energy of life, the energy of growth, the energy of expansion, and you're going to notice this. And they're going to laugh at things that are playful, that are win-win, that are fun. They can also have gallows humor here or there because they're not playing a role. Like, I'm the spiritual person. That means they haven't arrived yet. So you can actually laugh at different things because you're not just playing a spiritual character, but, like, for example, you can laugh at dark things as a way to create space from it, and as a way to say, you know what, I'm not going to make that a big deal. We're going to laugh at something kind of dark and twisted to make it not a big deal, because even though it sucks, we can't control it, and then we go back into a high vibe state. But it's not laughing at it, it's kind of laughing with it. So these are the different things that you'll see. And when I talk about misweighting bias earlier in this video, basically what I'm getting at is that I want to see you getting to the point that you understand that there is nothing more important than you cultivating an elevated state of consciousness, and then from there, using that as a foundation to build an amazing life. So anything that you're doing that is wasting down your time and giving you an easy dopamine spike is in effect bumping you towards that sociopathic state. And the ultimate deal with the devil is where you let that energy just inhabit you and run you and fuel you. So get a sense of where somebody's at. Look in the pupils. You'll see a steady gaze, but that's more glassy and loving versus a more shark-like gaze. You'll see a more openness in some people. Others, they're very against the other because it's only the intelligence of the ego and the body. There's no core essence intelligence at the steering wheel. And so what winds up happening is it's very like that. It's like, who am I against? Where's my defense? I need defense. And then what happens also is that people in that mode, they tend to like alcohol, they tend to like their cigars, their weed, their cocaine, hookers, things like that. Gambling, why is that? Gambling's about taking easily. Hookers about taking easily, it's transactional. Drugs, alcohol, cigars, booze, that's because you're disconnected from your higher state of flow. So you use those things to stay in that mode or to stay in a state of flow. So you're taking to stay in a state of flow. Whereas from a high vibe state, you're actually giving from a state of flow. You can also receive from a state of flow because you know there's a natural flow, and the more that you receive, the more that you grow, and then you can give even more. So natural flow there. So there's different energy that's running different people. What you've got to realize, though, is that what you're looking at in life, as you're being just kind of like confronted with these different things in life, you have a major, major misweighting bias towards where this is taking you. And some people, for example, Christians might say that if you don't get on top of this, when you die, you're going to go to hell. They'd actually say that. Or they might say that you don't even have any core essence at all. The body dies, there's nothing there. Some people might say that. Now, of course, we'd say back to that, oh, that's just terrible. You know, it's so judgmental, it's shameful, shaming. And I'd say there's some truth there too. Absolutely. But at the same time, you kind of got to cut the wheat from the chaff. Like, if a plant is growing and it doesn't hit that next level in its growth, it dies off. If there's meant to be a core essence that's growing within you and you don't get to that point, what is there that's even in you that's any different from a cow or a plant? If you're just a physical body, that's it. If 99% of your thoughts, words, and actions are just oriented around taking, and they're just oriented around self-concern and ego and self-preservation, what would even go on after you die? You don't even have a body anymore. So think about that. So from that standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, you should really understand the stakes, right? Like all these things that you're worried about, like things that are bothering you, someone talk bad on you or dump you or you didn't get the promotion at work or cut you off. What does any of this matter? It's total vanity, total trash. It's doing nothing. So it's a complete misweighting bias. Go back to things that build your core essence. Likewise, from a physical standpoint, even if you're somebody very grounded in the physical, amazing, great. That's a great place to start. At least you're not in apathy, amazing. But from that standpoint, look at all the things that are wasting down your time so that you can't go live a beautiful life. So what I suggest that you do is get a sense of what you want your inner world to look like. And then ask yourself, is what you're talking about, thinking about, doing, etc., is that leading to the enhancement of that? Likewise, though, what I'd also ask you to do is ask what you want your physical reality to look like. And you need to be doing major, major audits on what's leading you towards that and just trying to reclaim every second of your day to be able to gain leverage so that later you can relax. And if you want to look at Kylie Jenner or Kim Kardashian, you go do that. Again, I'm sure they're nice people. I'm just making the point. They have nothing to do with you. They don't know you. So you can go do that as a form of entertainment. But start to see the connection between the things wasting your time, the thoughts wasting your time, people wasting your time, energy wasting your time, foods wasting your time, habits wasting your time, people and things that you're engaging with wasting your time. Is it building your core essence or detracting from it? Or burning down time on this limited time that we have on earth to build it? Is it building that amazing physical reality? Or is it getting you away from your dreams? Keep going back to that again and again and again and again. Just keep going back to it. Again, misweighting bias. We're always getting our attention just sucked into everything. Who cares about this stuff? It's trash, it's garbage, it's useless. You won't care about it. And someday you're gonna have this big awakening. Maybe it's this video. Wake up! Wake up! Maybe it's this video. But maybe it's not this video. Maybe it's some other video. Maybe it's something you read. Maybe it's something you experienced. Maybe it's this big moment. Maybe it's after a dark night of the soul. But there should be a moment in your life at some point that you wake up and you're like, almost brought to tears, like, what have I been wasting my time on? What are these thoughts? Who's doing this? How did I get to this point? This is disgusting. And then from that point, after that dark night of the soul, you've got to start to use that and feed off of that. Say, never again. I know what my life is all about. I know what I want to build in this life inside and out. And if you do that, the kind of congruence, happiness, euphoria, and outer world that you're going to live, and the value that you can offer to other people, and the person that you're going to become are going to be amazing. You have no idea how amazing it could get. Anyway, I'm just here in the Bonneville Salt Flats, and there's going to be a huge race here, 48 hours, some of the fastest cars in the world, people coming in from all over the world to be here. I just got in town, and I wanted to shoot. So I hope that you enjoyed this topic, and we'll be back with more soon. Peace.